Hi everybody, I'm Franny, and today we're doing the annual oil change on the i8. We're going to start with a quick drive just to warm everything up. Next, we're going to get an initial reading on the oil level before we start. In order to check our oil, we need to turn the car on first. There we go. And we want to hit our menu button here. Then rotate down to Vehicle Info. Hit the center of the iDrive button to select it. Vehicle Status, that's what we're looking for. Engine oil level. It says it's okay, but we want to actually check it. So measure engine oil. We just roll down to the next one. Measurement is only possible while engine is at operating temperature and switched on. Select P or N, do not press the accelerator. Okay, start the car, there we go. Now it's ready to start its measurement. We'll hit our start measurement. All right, it started the engine automatically. And there it is, measuring the engine oil. Takes it a few seconds. Now we're checking the engine oil before we've done our oil change to check where it is at the end of a service interval. Here we are, 100%. All right, there it is over there on the right there. It looks like it's at the max. I would say the engine didn't use any oil at all. That's really amazing. Hopefully it was not overfilled. Doesn't look like it. All right, that's great. So that's what we'll be shooting for when we do our oil change. One of the questions I get a lot about the i8 is it electric? And I'm like, yeah, it's electric. Is it gas? Yeah, it is. So it's actually a hybrid. So it has a small engine in the back, and that's what we're going to be doing the oil change on today. So in order to access that engine, we need to pop our rear here. Here we go. Next, we remove the top cover by turning the releases 90 degrees. Next, there's a styrofoam piece of sound deadening. Now, it's not really held on by anything at all, so we just sort of pull that out carefully. In order to get the actual metal cover off the top, we have a few thumb screws we have to remove. That's these guys here. So if yours are stuck for some reason, you can use an Allen key to get these out as well. And put all of our screws into our little holder here. We can then lift our panel up. There are 3 tabs in the back that we want to separate. These guys here, 1, 2, and 3. We've got a protective cover over the engine here, which looks to be kind of dirty. And this would be our air box over here. That's also probably kind of dirty. The mass airflow sensor I can see. All right, now what we really want is this guy here, which is the oil fill. So we're going to be loosening that up. But first, I want to clean this a little bit. I'm going to be just using a little bit of Adam's waterless car wash. I think it's great for these sorts of things. The last thing we want is this dirt falling into the engine. Lift this guy up out of the way. There it goes. All right, there we go. Okay, yeah, look at that. There's a lot of it in there. Now, in order to clean this out in here before we open up our oil fill here, I'm going to use just a detail brush on this. All right, yeah, let's get that clean, huh? This may seem a little bit OCD, but really all I'm trying to do is just to keep dirt from entering into the engine. All right, that's nice and clean. Okay, well we can put our cover back on now that it's all nice and clean. Pop, 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 and pop. There we go. So with our cover back on, we can now remove our oil filler. The reason we're doing this is so that it makes it easier to drain the oil. Okay, pull that straight out. This is our gasket in there. We want to make sure that the gasket is in good shape and looks good. That one looks fine. I'm seeing a little bit of debris and stuff in there. That could just be air bubbles. I want to just make sure this is nice and clean, so I'll clean that. Now, the oil cap was a little bit stiff and a little bit difficult to get off. So what I'm going to do is add just a little bit of silicone paste to this rubber gasket. It'll make it just that much easier to get it on and off. And we're just talking the teeniest bit here. Like that much. Just a teeny bit, and we'll work it all the way around. Okay, I'm going to set this back on top here, just so it's up a little bit so it can still vent. With our filler cap loose, our next step is going to be to raise the car and drain the oil. These are the tools and supplies we'll need for the job. Now I've got some BMW oil here. This is 0W20. Now I called the dealership. Ours is a 2015 car, and there were a couple of different oils for that year. So I just wanted to be exactly certain. They've had the car in their shop before, so they suggested this 0 0W20. It kind of makes sense because these engines, you know, when they're called to order, they just like boom, have to start up and kind of do their thing. So that kind of makes sense that it's a rather thin oil. I also got the actual oil filter kit from BMW, and it's pretty sweet. Comes with a new oil filter. Love these guys. Love these because you can actually see the element in these. And if anything's going crazy in your car, you'll see it. These are awesome. It also comes with a new plug that goes on the bottom of the oil filter cup, and it has its own little gasket on there. They want you to replace this each time you do an oil change. So it's included in the kit. Super awesome. A new gasket for our oil filter cup, so we'll be replacing that. As far as tools go, this is a Torx 55 bit that fits this little plug, so we'll need this guy. And a couple of other sockets, 17 millimeter for the oil drain plug itself on the engine, and this guy, big 32 millimeter to get the actual oil filter cup off. And the rest of this are just ratchets and a torque wrench. So that's pretty much all we're gonna need. Oh, and the kit also comes with a new copper crush washer for the actual drain plug. So that's pretty cool too. All right, let's get underneath the car and drain the oil. Underneath the car, there's a huge metal plate that runs probably the rear third of the car. Fortunately, there are some big cutouts in the bottom here that allow you to get to the bits you need to. This is our oil drain plug at the bottom of the engine there. And then this guy up here is our oil filter cup, and that's that little drain plug on the bottom of it. Our next step is going to be loosen up our oil drain plug on the bottom of the engine here. Now this is one of those horizontal ones, so when you take the plug out, the oil is going to shoot forward quite a ways, almost to the edge here of this metal. So I'm going to be using this little guy, hopefully as a diverter. We'll see, it's either going to work or it's going to be very comical. Now I'm just going to loosen this up to get started. Just crack it loose. There we go. It shouldn't be very tight at all. This is just going to be a little crazy as always. All right, here we go. Here we go. Oh, that wasn't too bad. This little diverter guy works great. I use it on the 993, and anybody that has a horizontal drain plug works great. Okay, we'll let that drain a bit. Well, it's quite a bit, huh? All right, that's still draining well. I'm going to get my little diverter out of the way here. Stop up the hole there for a second. Pull this guy out of the way. And continue on with the draining. Now I did get the engine good and warm, driving it around first, and then let the engine sit for a little bit. Not too long, but just enough for it to cool down so it's not scalding hot. But we don't want it too long because we want to make sure that any sediment or whatever is still in solution in the oil. And also it drains a lot faster too if it's a little thinner. While that's just finishing up there, I want to take a good look at our drain plug. It's pretty simple. It just has a single copper washer on it, which we're going to discard. We have a new one. But I want to take a good look at it, make sure the threads look good, make sure they don't look galled in any way, and also that the sealing surface here on the bottom side of the bolt head looks nice and clean as well, and it looks great. All right, well, it's nice and clean. This is our brand new copper crush washer that came in our kit. We just fit that over the top. Super simple, right? Well, I think that's fine. We just have a few short drips there, so no big deal. I'm going to go ahead and put our drain plug back in. The torque for this drain bolt is 25 Newton meters, or it's about 18.5 foot-pounds. So I've got my torque wrench all set here. Let's go ahead and torque it down. Okay. There it is. Not very tight. Wipe up any remaining oil or any schmutz that's in here. Our next task is to pull the plug on the bottom of the oil filter housing. I've got my T55 for that. We'll go ahead and loosen this up. There isn't a lot of oil in here, maybe a cup or so. So we'll pull it out just a bit. Now, just so it doesn't make a complete utter mess, I've got this tube with a little guy on the end of it here, which almost acts kind of as a funnel. And I'm gonna put it up underneath there and take the end off of this and put it in a container as well. So we'll see how well that works, but that's the plan. I believe the service manual would have you remove this wire right here, and that way you can drain pretty much straight down into something. I was trying not to disconnect that wire, and that's why I was hoping this would work, but probably in the future I'd just go ahead and disconnect that wire and drain straight down. It was a good idea, but actually the plug kind of clogged up my little funnel here, so it worked pretty well, but we did lose a little bit of oil on the ground. Okay, well that's most of it. I'm going to actually refit the plug so when we take down the oil filter housing, it doesn't leak all over the place and doesn't continue to drip. And just to give you an idea of the amount of oil, so it looks like it's about a cup-ish or so, maybe a little bit more, not too bad. With the oil filter housing drained, I can now take my 32 millimeter and go ahead and pull that guy out. Now I'm going to just put a rag here just to catch any drips. Now that we have this guy out, we can go ahead and take it to the bench and swap out the oil filter. So there's probably going to be a little bit of oil in this cup still, so kind of be ready for that. See, so a little bit of extra oil, no big deal. And then just pull the filter straight out. It's a little hard to get out, a little stiff. There it goes, snap. Now, always a great opportunity to take a look at the pleats in your oil filter, just sort of pull them back a little bit. All you're looking for is something that should not be there. So anything shiny, any little shiny bits, any of that sort of thing in there, that would be very, very bad. So we're just gonna paw through this a little bit. It looks fine to me. I don't see anything in there. I'm kind of used to those mid-2000 year Porsches that have the IMS issue. So I'm always looking at these filters whenever I do an oil change on those cars. And on those cars, I'll go ahead and cut this apart and pull the whole pleats apart. I don't think that's necessary on this car. They don't seem to have that issue where they're just gonna explode. Just looking at these pleats, they look fine to me. Yep, I don't see anything in them at all. So that's great. I think we're fine there. Now let's go ahead and pull our old plug off the bottom so we don't forget to do that. All right, and we can set this aside because we have a brand new one. And I'm gonna clean out the inside of this with a nice clean rag. Once again, looking for any debris that's in there. All right, looks good. We can use a little bit of brake cleaner just to kind of clean it out in there. Our next step is going to be to remove this rubber O-ring that's on our filter housing here. Now, it's very hard to see, but there's actually a little cutout in this guy, so you'll know where to place your tool to get this out without buggering up the edge of this thing. Now also take a look at this carefully. It doesn't sit all the way up against the flange. It sits one notch in from that. So that's important because we want to make sure that we get our gasket in exactly the right place. So one notch in, we look for our little slot here. If you can see that little slot there, you can see the little divot that they've got there that allows you to get that O-ring out without buggering up the edge. All right, so we can put our little tool in there, lift that guy up carefully, then just run it out. At this point, we can reinstall our new rubber O-ring. Now, the service manual would have you go ahead and use a little bit of engine oil on this. I like to use a little bit of silicone paste like I used before. Now, it's really just a kiss. We just want the teeniest bit on there. The reason why I use this over the oil is I think it helps lubricate this rubber a little bit better. And then when you go to take things off, they just come off easier. They don't sit there and skip. Next, we'll just go ahead and work it on. Remember, we're one notch in from the end there. And I try to do this by hand. I really don't want a tool in there because if you get something underneath it, nick it, then it can leak. And there we go. It's on all the way, and we're at the appropriate second mark in from the flange. Next, I'm going to go ahead and install our brand new drain plug that goes on the bottom of this guy. It also has a little rubber washer on the bottom. I'm going to give that the little silicone treatment as well. Just the teeniest bit here, just a smidgen. All right, so we just then fit it into the bottom of our cover here. The torque value on this is teeny. It's 5 Newton meters or like 3.5 foot-pounds. Well, my torque wrench really only goes down to 10, so with that rubber gasket in there, it's not going to leak. I do have this set to the absolute lowest it will go. I don't know if we'll even get a click, to be honest. I think that's, oh, there we go. Yeah, I can hear a little click. And that's all it is. It's an incredibly low amount of torque. You don't want to strip this guy out at all. All right, we're almost there. Our final step is just to reinsert our new element here. It just goes in, pops in, and goes snap. So there's our little teeth on the inside, little teeth on the end of the filter. So just get it centered, push it in until it goes snap. All right, we are all set. Let's go ahead and get back under the car and reinstall this. I just want to make sure this is nice and clean in here. Looking up into our filter housing, do you see all the way up here? There's a little check valve, and this just needs to be loose. It needs to be moving around. The service manual wants you to make sure that that guy is sealing. See if we push up on it, a little oil comes out. All right, we just want to make sure that that's doing its thing and doing what it's supposed to do. Now, a little trick you can do is to fill up your filter housing here with a little bit of oil before you insert it. And what that's going to do is give the oil system a little head start when we fire up the engine. So it's not much, obviously. You don't want to fill it much more than probably about right there. So it's about maybe, I don't know, 1/4 of a liter, if that. I think that's good. I think our level is right about here. Let's go ahead and insert our oil filter. There it goes. You can kind of feel it go up till you can start to thread it. I've got the filter housing in as far as it'll go by hand. Next step is to use our socket and the torque wrench. Now the torque spec on this is, interestingly, the exact same as it is for the oil drain plug. That's 25 Newton meters or about 18.5 foot-pounds. So I've got my torque wrench ready to go. Here we go. There it goes. Now I feel it stopped. Definitely stopped. Seated. So here we go. There's our torque. Finally, all we want to do is just make sure everything is spotlessly clean up here. I'm going to use a little bit of brake cleaner to kind of clean everything out up here and just make sure that there's nothing for dust and dirt to settle on. And with that, we're all done under the car. Next, we'll just lower the car and go ahead and put in the oil. Now, I found some conflicting information on the web, but I believe, and after talking to the technician, that the correct capacity for the engine is actually 4.5 liters. All right, so we'll pull our oil cap off using a little funnel. We'll go ahead and throw our funnel in there, and we'll just start adding our oil. And remove our funnel and just reinstall our oil cap. Since we use that silicone on the seal on that thing, boy, it's a lot easier to turn. And finally, we just replace our covers in reverse order. And we are all done. A couple final tasks. We want to recheck our engine oil, and for that you're going to need to warm up the car first. While you've got the engine running, it's a great idea to go underneath and just make sure that you don't have any leaks from all the work we did. Then go ahead and do an oil check just like we did in the beginning of the video, just to make sure that our level is exactly where it should be. And finally, we're going to reset the service interval. All right, what we do is we just turn on the car. There we go. And now down here in the bottom corner, it's a little hard to see, but there's a little black button down there. So what we want to do is we want to press that and hold it for 10 seconds. There we go. Engine oil, reset possible. Awesome. That's what we want. We'll select that. Reset. Yep. We'll press for another 3 seconds or so. Reset in progress. All right, the reset is successful. That's awesome. Vehicle check, reset possible. All right, yes, we want to reset that as well. Reset once again, hold for 3 seconds. All right, reset in progress. There we go. Yay! Reset successful. We're all set there. I think we're all done. Well, that's it for the oil change on the i8. I hope you enjoyed it. There's another YouTuber out there, i8 Pat, and i8 Pat's Garage actually, and he has done a really nice episode as well on how to do the oil change on one of these cars, so I highly suggest you check out that. I will link it down in the description below. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Questions or comments, go ahead and leave them down below and I'll get right to them. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the little bell next to it to get notified, because you're not going to want to miss any content from our channel. So if you're new here, we have a Ferrari, we have a bunch of Porsches, and we do a lot of work on all of our cars, and we're currently in the middle of a 3.2 Carrera rebuild project. So that's super, super fun, and you won't want to miss any of that. All right, thank you so much for watching, and as always, a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. Until next time, safe travels. Bye.